Hi everyone, thank you for joining us today for another episode of STEM Girls Virtual. My name is Emily and I'm here on behalf of Cincinnati Museum Center. On this show we talk about different careers in the STEM fields. Those fields being science, technology, engineering, and math. Today I'm out in the field, so to speak. I'm at Miami Whitewater Forest of Great Parks of Hamilton County, and we're going to be speaking with Amanda Nurre and Zuri Carter. Hi Zuri, thank you for joining us today. Can you tell us what your role is here at Great Parks?
Hey everyone, I am a conservation biologist with the parks. I focus on a lot of the kind of wildlife-based projects and doing some restoration projects as well, such as like assisting with prescribed fire burns and any of the tree planting. So a lot of wildlife monitoring and surveys.
Okay, what kind of wildlife are you monitoring?
Depending on the time of year, it can vary from looking at any of your avian species that may be in the parks to seeing what herpetofauna are present within the parks, such as, and those are reptiles and amphibians. And then getting the questions here and there of like what bugs do we have in the parks, and those are a little bit harder for me, but always an interesting question to try to answer.
Okay, and what are you standing beside right now?
Right now we're located near one of our nest boxes here within the parks. This is a smaller version that we use for looking at like a smaller cavity nesting species such as eastern bluebirds and house wrens, both of which are native species, and just being able to work with some volunteers that we have come into the parks to monitor these boxes on a bi-weekly basis from the spring into the summer, just to see like what we have and be able to send that data into us.
Okay, and the data you collect, how does that form the work you do in the future?
So data that we collect in the field is pretty instrumental to us being able to formulate management strategies for different areas. So the area that we're in right now is actually what we call like a reduced mold area. It used to be mowed all the way to the tree line, but by reducing the amount of area that is mowed, we're able to promote more diversity in this particular area. So we have a lot more cover for like the smaller mammals, and as well as promoting like insects being present within the grass, which becomes essentially a food and breakfast for the birds. So they pop right out and you got food all around you, compared to like having a completely mowed down area where fewer species will persist.
Okay. So what does a typical workday look like for you? Is there a typical workday?
There is not a typical workday. I can have a plan for the morning, and by the time I make it an hour into the day, it could have completely changed. But when I'm able to like have a typical day, it can involve a lot of planning, and I love that part because I'm able to see like my ideas come alive. And so by having a research question or something, I'm able to sit down, plan it out, determine like my methodology, and then be able to go in the field and execute that plan. And when that data comes back, be able to like look at it and be able to determine like what we need to modify in terms of management strategies, or help to inform park managers of what they could be doing for natural resources management. And so it's a typical day. It can vary, and also being involved in like committees here with the parks. My day could also just be like meetings, which can also be like fun and good too.
Okay. You use something called citizen science in your job. Can you tell us what citizen science is and how it helps you do your job?
Yeah, so I kind of alluded to it just a little bit earlier about how we have volunteers who come and help us out with checking the boxes, and we do that with a few of our different programs as well, where volunteers come to the parks. They don't have to know anything about wildlife or how to monitor. We help train everyone so that they become familiar with the process, and by them coming into the parks and checking based on whatever protocol that they're under, that data is then sent to us so that it can inform our management strategies, and citizen science being the act of having data being collected by everyday citizens. So like even though I work here with the parks, I could go somewhere else and become a citizen science because I don't immediately work with that agency, but I have an interest in the data that they're collecting and helping them inform their management activities, or just contributing to the data we have about the natural world at large.
That's so cool. What's your favorite thing about working for Great Parks?
I would say, like, I used to say a lot, like, being able to work outside, and I still do love that a whole lot, but I mentioned it earlier, just like having this idea, having the time to be able to watch it just come to life, and like being able to set it free and fly and execute it in the field. And so, like, that process of going from just an idea to like implementation is really exciting for me, and then being able to implement those things outdoors and just loving every bit of it. Like, that's what I love about working here. Sorry.
Oh no, that's great. My last question for you is, what advice would you give to young women and girls who are interested in having a job in the STEM field?
Oh wow. Um, I would say that often you're going to be the only one who's like you in the room, and don't give up because of that. So keep pursuing like what it is that you love. I've known for a long time what wanted to do. I didn't always know what my purpose was, but when I realized that the two actually meshed, it just made life that much better. And so keep pursuing what you're doing, and if you don't have a mentor or someone that you can look up to, like find someone that you can who does what you love to do, and reach out to them. That's what I did when I was in 5th grade, and that guy, I'm still in contact with him now. And he's all the way out in California, and I've never met him, but he was that awesome person that I just reached out to randomly and was like, hey, I'm interested in this. What can I do? And he's just an awesome person all around. So I would say don't give up, and then find someone that you can look up to who's interested in what you're wanting to do.
That's amazing. Thank you for being here today, Zuri.
Thanks so much.
Hi, Amanda. Thanks for joining us today. Can you tell us a little bit about what your role is here at Great Parks?
Yeah, I am a watershed specialist for the Great Parks, which means that I take care of streams and lakes and rivers. I look at things like water quality, I do stream assessments, I look at aquatic biology, those sorts of things.
Wonderful. So can you tell us what a watershed is exactly?
Yeah, a watershed is basically an area of land where all the precipitation and streams, they all drain into a common outlet. So they can range in size from like being very tiny to very huge. And we're all standing in a watershed right now.
Wonderful. Can you tell us, you do a stream survey program. What are you surveying?
So we actually do a couple different stream survey programs. We have one where we use volunteers to go out and assess macroinvertebrates, which are basically like little bugs crawling around in the streams. And then we also, I run a headwater habitat evaluation survey. So I go out and look at the smallest streams in the watershed and assess their habitat.
Okay. The information you get from your survey, how does that affect the job you're doing?
We use the information we get from those surveys to prioritize areas we might want to restore, to decide how to plan future projects. We use that information to contribute to trying to acquire grants and funding for our projects.
Okay. Now the watershed looks a little low right now. Will this get higher at a certain point?
Absolutely, yeah. So we can kind of go through some like drought conditions through the summer and into fall, but in the spring this would be much higher.
Okay. So in the fall, this will probably still be low.
Yeah, probably.
Okay. Do you have any challenges you come across in your day here?
Yeah, so trying to get to streams to survey them can be a challenge. It's kind of, for anybody that knows the topography of the Cincinnati area, it's quite hilly. So getting out to streams can be a challenge. There's also a lot of growth. We have a lot of growth, a lot of honeysuckle. So getting through all of the vegetation can be a challenge as well.
Okay. What does a typical day at work look like for you? Is there a typical day?
There's not really a typical day. I have a lot of different programs that I'm involved in. I like to be able to get in the field for a little bit and then spend some time in the office, maybe looking at data or putting together a project plan. So I feel really lucky because I get to spend time outdoors, in the environment and in streams, and also get to do research and kind of look at different projects and help with planning.
Okay. What is your favorite thing about working for Great Parks?
I love that I get to contribute to the preservation of our natural resources in the county.
It's wonderful. And my last question for you is, what advice would you give to young girls and women who are interested in a career in the STEM field?
I would say volunteer as much as you can so you learn what you're really interested in, and ask a lot of questions to people that work in this field.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for joining us today, Amanda.
Thank you.
Thank you again to Amanda and Zuri for joining us today, and thank you to Great Parks of Hamilton County, and we'll see you next time.